Macron seems to have a pretty steady lead. Has anything moved the needle since this second round began?
Not much, but we don't know how people are going to process the debate. That being said, until about 20 years ago, you had a majority of voters who actually watched the debates. And the peak was in the 70s and 80s when it was 80% of the electorate. And this time is with only 35%. The ratings plummeted midway through the program. So the debate may not have been as significant as it used to be when we had, only a couple of news channels and not the same experience. And what's really fascinating about this election is that on either side, there's a huge correlation for voting intentions. There's mostly people vote for Macron because they want to bar entry into French politics to Marine Le Pen. And same thing on the other side. It's a reject vote more than anything else.
In the eyes of various voters, I suppose. What do the French voters make of some of the extraordinary interventions we've seen this week? President Zelensky mentioning his friendship and partnership with Macron, as well as hearing some interventions from the European Union as well. What do the French public make of those?
In terms of Ukraine, I think it's neutral, slightly beneficial to Emmanuel Macron, but they realize that right now President Zelensky is fighting for the life of his own country and he needs friends. And France actually has sent with making less of a fuss of it than Britain perhaps has sent quite a bit of military equipment to Ukraine. So that's something that is not changing anything much to the election. In terms of the EU supporting Emmanuel Macron, I think Macron voters will like that because he's always campaigned with European flags and he's very pro-Europe and he aims to be the sort of leading personality within the EU right now, especially since the departure of Angela Merkel. But on the Marine Le Pen side, it will confirm voters in the idea that he is less of a French patriot than a European patriot, which is not something necessarily that they like. So it's a double-edged sword, if you like.
Amongst the French electorate, there isn't the same levels of Euroscepticism that there is in the United Kingdom or indeed in Italy and some Eastern European countries as well. Potentially, could this be a winning card for Macron? Because there isn't a parallel, I suppose, that you can draw between France.
I would disagree with you. I would say that the level of Euroscepticism that has been measured in polls in some time now is almost as high as Britain's. I mean, I think Britain is one of the two nations that are at the complete bottom of the love for Europe. But France is not far above it. It's doubt rather than complete and outright rejection. But certainly that means that if Brussels says, "Oh, this is the president you must elect, do not vote for the other one," it might be counterproductive with some people who are inclined to vote against Emmanuel Macron anyway.